the economy portends, what they think the politics might shape out, and then maybe we can get from them certain words of advice as to how we can position ourselves for 2025. Please note that the emphasis of the ALG is for good governance in Africa. That's a simple emphasis of the ALG. How do we ensure we add our voice, work our quota, and do what we can to ensure that there's good governance in Africa? So the idea is to talk to as many people as possible and get from them their own thoughts, considerations, vision, challenges, issues, and contributions to how to make Africa great on a country-by-country basis, starting with Nigeria and going to hopefully every single country in Africa, and how to make this work, putting in the necessary platforms, the necessary linkages, the necessary associations, and the necessary networks to make it possible. That's a summary of what the African Leadership Group is about, how to get good leadership, political leadership, corporate leadership, entrepreneurial leadership, and where necessary, leadership in the academia in Nigeria and all over Africa. So what are we expecting, first of all, from this administration? And what should we really be expecting as Nigerians, ceteris paribus, meaning all things being equal? So we want a deep dive into the globe, into the globe, okay, into a perception of what people think that this administration in Nigeria will portend. Then we want to evaluate and think and imagine what could have been possible if some of the things we are expecting are not quite what it should be. So the reality and the possibility, that's the perspective that I want our present discussants to look at. What, in their opinion, is the reality? I'll give everybody 3 minutes to make their own points on that. And then after that, there will be 1 or 2 questions that I may have. And then what should be the possibility? Okay, this is what we think this government will do. Then this is what we are advising them that they should really do. Everybody would have a chance to express their opinion. So our panelists today on this roundtable fireside chat, you have Auntie Yemisi Ransome Kuti, who really needs the introduction. She's a very strong member of the ALG. She's featured before, and she also is quite a regular at most of the discussions. Born into the family of late Aizara Olusegun, member of the British Empire, and Mrs. Folorunsola from Kuti. Yemisi had education both in the UK and in Nigeria, with degrees and diplomas in business management, aesthetics, counseling, and human resources management. A mother of 4 and grandmother of many, born on the 18th of December. Happy birthday in arrears, 1947. She grew up with her cousins, Professor Oliko Ransome Kuti, Wole Soyinka, Fela Anikulapo Kuti, and Beko Ransome Kuti, as the granddaughter of the late Canon J.J. Ransome Kuti, and the only child of her parents, late Isaiah and Folorunsola Ransome Kuti, and by extension has become the present head of the Ransome Kuti family. She has worked in many organizations all over the place, in many areas, too many to name, but what she's most famous for is her activism, which you can see from the names of her cousins, was run in her blood. and also her passion for Nigeria and for good governance of Nigeria. She's also a creative and a very, very sociable and social person. Sis Yemisi, you're most welcome in Jesus' name. We also have Francis I. Achike, medical doctor, PhD, MED, FCP, a professor of pharmacology, clinical pharmacology, and medical education, a fellow of the American College of Clinical Pharmacology, and he recently retired as Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion from the Texas A&M University College of Medicine. Prior to that, he was founding faculty for Newborn California University of Science and Medicine in Inland Empire City of Colton, California, and so on and so forth. He's an ardent Pan-Africanist and a strong protagonist of a vision of African unity and emancipation of the Black race. He's the original author of the Handshake Across the Niger Doctrine and served as Asia diaspora representative at the 2005 Nigerian National Political Reform Conference. He really strongly believes in Nigerian unity, which he fights and advocates for. Professor Achike, you are most welcome in Jesus' name. Madu Alwell, former USDOG official, lawyer, activist, former governorship aspirant of Abia State, special advisor to Governor Chukwemeka Ezeife, former chairman, monitoring and disciplinary committee, Uzoko Umana, member, Southern Middle Belt Leadership Forum, member of the Patriots, and eminent national leaders group of thought, Nigeria, chairman, Federalist Majority, Madu, Bright, Alwell, you are most welcome. Professor Muhammadu Mustapha Gwadabe, Department of History, Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, Professor of Political History and Project Coordinator, Center for Democratic Development, Research and Training, Zaria. He's also featured eminently on this platform and is a man who is extremely passionate about the development of Nigeria. You are all most welcome, and I thank you all for accepting our invitation to be on this platform today. We want our discourse to be swift, straight to the point, very, very deep, intentional, and result, we're expecting that it will give us quite a lot of things to look at, things to advise the government about, and things to bring forward. One of the things we are hoping to bring out of our various conversations on the ALG is the Green Book, which will be an annual event where we're going to present to whoever is President of the Federal Republic the thoughts, wishes, considerations, aspirations, ideas, suggestions, and recommendations that we have from the past to help their governance of our great Nigeria. So we're going to start right now, and I'm going to be asking our guest, Madu Bright Alwell, Chairman, Federalist Majority, to kick off. We want you to give us an idea of, from your own perspective, what you think this government will do for us Nigerians. And yeah, maybe that's what we should start with. What you think the government should do for us Nigerians. You have 3 minutes, sir, to express your first round of thoughts, and then we'll come back to you later. Thank you very much.
Greetings, all distinguished participants, esteemed colleagues, and fellow patriots. It's a great privilege and honor to address this esteemed audience on such a pivotal subject, Nigeria 2025, setting the agenda. Allow me to begin by expressing my profound gratitude to Pastor Itua Igodalo, the African Leadership Group, and the Nigerian Leadership Series for creating the credible platform for thought leadership and nation building. Since its inception, the NLS has facilitated crucial dialogues on governance, accountability, and leadership, galvanizing citizens to take actions for the betterment of our troubled nation, Nigeria. It is both humbling and inspiring to share in this legacy today. The theme for this session, Nigeria 2025, setting the agenda, could not have come at a more critical time. We stand on the threshold of history, faced with opportunities to shape a future of unity, peace, and progress. Yet, we are also confronted by challenges that test our resolve, threaten our cohesion, and demand urgent and transformative solutions. Today, I will outline the framework for setting Nigeria agenda in 2025, focusing on three key pillars: unity through inclusivity, good governance and accountability, and youth empowerment and economic regeneration. These pillars, coupled with active participation of all citizens, form the foundations for national restoration and prosperity. Let us embark on this journey together with open minds and resolute hearts. I will stop here until you get back to me. I believe you gave us 2 minutes, Pastor Igodalo. Or should I continue?
You can continue and come to some kind of landing, because I suspect you have not quite gotten to your landing.
Let us embark on this journey together with open and resolute hearts. The state of the nation reflecting on 2024. Before we map the road to 2025, I suggest we take a sobering look at where we stand today. As a nation, we are marked to paradoxes. Nigeria is Africa's largest economy, yet millions live below the poverty line. We are a cultural powerhouse, yet we struggle to build cohesion among our diverse ethnic and religious groups. We boast of a youthful population, our greatest asset, yet unemployment and disillusionment are at alarming levels. Insecurity remains a formidable threat. However, amidst all these challenges, there are glimmers of hope. On my three pillars for Nigeria agenda in 2025, unity through inclusivity. Unity is not the absence of differences. It is harmonious coexistence of those differences toward a more common purpose. Nigeria's diversity is an asset and not a liability. However, unity cannot thrive in the absence of inclusivity. Inclusivity is about creating an environment where every Nigerian, regardless of ethnicity, religion, and social status, feels valued, heard, and represented. I will conclude, though I have more to say, I will conclude by just submitting the following. The regional template is the bastion against incompetence, unfair allocation of resources. What we need to do in Nigeria is just to kind of go through our civic education that can only be fostered among the citizens only in an atmosphere of real and perceived justice or official living and high-handedness. Trust may only be rebuilt through truthfulness and in official communication and conduct. These key pillars for sustainable nation building are truth, justice, and equity. I will stop here for now until you get back to me, Pastor.
Thank you very much, Madu. Thank you so much. Can I have Ms. Yemisi Ransome Kuti to give us her thoughts as to what we should expect in 2025 in Nigeria?
Thank you, Pastor Iswa. Let me thank you for inviting me and all the other protocols. I don't want to waste the few minutes you've given me. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Well, from the point of view of government, the expectations are quite well spelt out. I was at the Chamber of Commerce this morning when Mr. Tope Fashwa, the special advisor to the VP on the economy, gave a very robust presentation of what the government will do. And I think a lot of it is already out there in the open. The challenge is, how do we hold them accountable for doing it? Because each year they roll out the budget, they roll out the policy expectations, but monitoring and holding their feet to the fire is probably the only way we can ensure that change happens. They expect us to look at what happened in December, dirty December, where we made a lot of money from foreigners, foreign diaspora Nigerians that came home, and see how that can be replicated in Abia, in Kano, in other parts of Nigeria. And they also really are very, very bullish about the tax reform agenda that they're pushing. So they expect that with a number of that happening, increment in the production of oil, raising it to 2 point something, which is what it was some years back, we will be able to rejig the economy. They're very bullish and hopeful about 2025. From our perspective as citizens, we really want them to reduce corruption. We want them to govern more effectively. The office of Mrs. Bala Usman should give us some updates on what she finds, her findings on the KPIs, the monitoring system that she's put in place. There should be some briefing, not just to brief the president, but to brief us, their employers, about what's happening, what are the benchmarks that have been given to each minister, and how well they are fulfilling it. I think these are our expectations from government. From politics, I think we expect more of the same. Politicians all over the world come from the same mother and father, I think. And they're not likely to change unless citizens demand change. And so it's going to be up to us to join political parties and change from within, and advocate for the reform of the political party structure itself. There's no way people will not steal when they get into government if they have to pay so much to buy their tickets and to run the kind of campaigns they run. So I think we all have to look at that. From corporate Nigeria, Nigeria's corporate bodies just want the enabling environment to work and not have to pay taxes ad nauseum. They expect the power sector to be fixed, to have the infrastructure that they can work, not just the main roads. And I think a lot of us have to advocate a lot more to ensure that the inner roads is not, you can't do your higgledy-piggledy on your inner roads and then, okay, very nice high streets. We have to pressurize government to provide that environment that is going to allow citizens to work better, companies to work better, where the roads are smooth, there's drainage is sorted, and there's just a decent environment to live and work and thrive. And for the citizenry, I don't think we have done enough to take responsibility for the governance structure that we have, because we're not in an autocracy. In an autocracy, you will beg the king, you plead with the king, and you're very happy if he does anything nice for you. In a democracy, it is the people that are in charge. And I'm not sure that the citizenry of Nigeria have allowed that message to sink in, for them to take ownership of whatever happens in Nigeria. If Nigeria is working, it is we that have succeeded. Nigeria is not working, we have to say we, the people, are not doing whatever we need to do to make it work. The politicians, leaders, everywhere, there are only a few of them. So the majority of Nigerians have to take responsibility and engage more effectively, organize, particularly at local government levels, engage with leadership, not just politicians, ICANN, NBA, labor movements, manufacturers association. There should be a direct engagement with the leadership of this country in the various sectors, academia. Why are our universities producing graduates that are unemployable? They should be sacked. And let's begin to have that conversation about all of us taking responsibilities. And finally, each and every one of us must patronize made in Nigeria goods and services. We have to invest in our local economy. There's no point, driving around okay, maybe we don't have the car. We have innocent. Let's begin to patronize our own goods. There's no point wearing an Adidas and wearing fine clothes from Gucci and Armani when you have your own local products and they are buying fancy cars and living large in California, Paris, or wherever. So investing in Nigeria and taking responsibility would be my message for 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was an excellent note to land. Investing in Nigeria. A friend of mine was talking about Nigerianizing the economy and strengthening the Naira, patronizing whatever is Nigerian. About a year ago or so, in our church, we engaged a local company to make chairs for us. And they made the chairs and brought them back. There was a shortage on quality. So, of course, naturally, my people were a bit upset that this quality is not good. We should have imported these chairs. This is in Nigeria. So when it was time to reorder, I told them to go back to that company. They thought I was crazy. I said, no, you have to go back. We have to tell him what he did wrong. We have to query him. We have to tell him what he can do better. And we have to tell him to do it again and do a better one this time. They said, how can you say so, this and that? I told them this is how China became China. When China started, the products were terrible. Nobody would buy them. Now you go to China to buy all the quality of products from plus A1 quality. And if you still want the old Chinese type, you can get it too. Depends on the power of your pocket. We have to keep reiterating Nigeria and keep using Nigerian things until we get the quality that we want. That message should be strongly passed as well. Even those who have great quality today, they didn't start off with great quality. They became great quality after several years of repeated mistakes. No child learns to walk without falling. So let us also pass that message along. If I was president of Nigeria, what I keep reiterating is that we will not import 1 grain of food. If we cannot produce it in Nigeria, we are not going to eat it. And if anything you want to produce, go and produce. But we must produce it in Nigeria. So you either produce it in Nigeria or eat it, or you don't eat it at all. We won't import food, we won't import drink. If you want to drink champagne, make Nigerian champagne. Call it whatever you like, and go and drink it. End of story. But I will spend foreign exchange importing something to put in the stomach or drink, forget it. Let me ask Professor Mustapha Gwadabe to talk to us very quickly.
Prof, please unmute. We've asked you to unmute.
Hello. Are you hearing me, please?
Yes, we can hear you now. Good evening, sir.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, good evening, all of you, please. I am really happy to be invited for this discussion. I have 2 issues which I want to share with this group. One of the issues is that for 2025, I want to advise that having a politician as a president, I will want us to see how we can put democracy in action to see that democracy works by definition and by action. What did I mean by that? I mean, if democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people, let it be, so that we can have a system that is working. I'm saying this because we have somebody who all his life fought for democracy, and now we have him as our president. And I feel it will make sense if he work towards giving us what we voted him for. I mean, democracy, whereby we see it work at all levels. I'm happy that we have the local government autonomy now is about to start working. I hope it will not just be an autonomy that people can use and misuse, but an autonomy that can make meaning to the general public. So my first point is to say that we need to see democracy working so that we can have stability in our economy and stability in the way we relate as a nation. My second point is that there's one big challenge with Nigeria and Nigerians, and this is issue to do with appreciating Nigeria itself. I mean, I want Nigerians to take the Nigeria as their own identity and not to think as members of a region or members of a certain part of Nigeria or members of a religion or members of a tribe or ethnic group. This is what Nigeria is lacking, and this is what Nigerians need if we want 2025 to make a difference. So these are my 2 points which I want 2025 to pay attention to. One, to have a democracy that will represent the name, and two, to have a society whereby we can have a common identity as Nigerians so that we can work together and build our nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Very well said and very well understood. I'm going to come back to you asking you what we should do as citizens to hold this government to make sure that it provides a government for the people, and also to promote that sense of national unity. I want to hear from you specifics as to what we should do, but I'll be coming back to you after we have allowed Professor Francis Achike to say a few words as to what we should be expecting in 2025. I don't know if Prof is in Nigeria or if he's in California and avoiding the fires, or if he's in Harvard somewhere and enjoying the cold. But Prof, wherever you are, let me hear your thoughts. Yeah, where?
Can you hear me?
Sorry?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Right, I am in Texas, if that answers your question. Right.
Okay, very good. Greet the Cowboys for us.
Right.
So talk to us. What
I shall.
do we expect in your Nigeria 2025, Prof? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this conversation. And particular thank you to my sisters, Jumoke, Akintelo. And I can't help myself, but also recognize my big sister, Yemisi, I hope I'm getting the first name right, Ransome Kuti. I will talk to you later, but you are related to my hero, my teacher, Professor Olikoye Ransome Kuti, our ex-late Minister of Health. I want to also thank Pastor Ighodalo and group for what you are doing. It is said, the man dies in all that keep silent in the face of tyranny. And also it is the silence of the good folks that makes evil to thrive in any society. So if anything, the fact that your organization is talking, is not keeping, is a very big positive. And I'm glad to be associated with that. coming from the Collaborative Council of Nigerians in the Diaspora, of which your group also belongs. So now back to the question itself. Nigeria, just the thought of where we are as a people is extremely painful. I'll quickly go back to the introduction as presented earlier by Pastor Ighodalo, who said, what we expect and what we wish, honestly, those two are different. If I go by what I see in the country and what has been happening in the past 10, 15 years in our country, and even under this current dispensation, I am sad to say I don't hold out much hope of what I'm expecting to see. However, I can share what I hope and pray to see. And if I say I'm not holding out hope, I don't need to go into details. The latest pain for me is when I listen to some social media video of Mr. Akpabio sitting in the Senate and asking his fellow senators to vote on whether or not to ban military or armed forces generals from using money voted for protection to build private universities. They ended up voting against that idea. So how do you want folks like us, the ordinary citizen, to begin to build confidence and hope in a country like that? So that said as background, what do I wish will happen? Our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, continues to be an enigma to me. He, like somebody said earlier on, has been a long fighter for democracy. I was in the trenches with him and the Nadeko period. And we hope, and sorry, before that, when he was governor of Lagos State, I was very impressed, generally speaking. He wasn't an angel, but I was impressed by the things he did. In fact, more so with the person he handed over to, Fashola, who I prayed for every day. He was governor of Lagos State. As I keep seeing the good things he continued to do after Bola Ahmed Tinubu was governor of Lagos State. So when I say it's an enigma to me, it is that I don't see him performing at the level I expect relative to what he did, for example, in Lagos State. So I am calling on President Tinubu to wake up and be the great president that he potentially can be for Nigeria. And in doing that, to achieve that, some of his expectations for me in the year 2025 is we have to revamp our country. I want to quickly say, if you listen to all the things, all the suggestions that have been made by our panel today, I ask myself as I listen to my colleagues, what have you said that has not been said in the last 60 years of Nigerian independence? What have we said that has not been said? So the fundamental thing is there is something fundamental that needs to be focused on. For us today, it is corruption, as I have illustrated with the Senator Akpabio's Senate recent decision. So if I were to ask, I would say President Tinubu and his advisors and those in power with him should immediately embark on an anti-corruption crusade. We need that. That is fundamental. Someone talked about tax reform and the money that will be coming in. Great idea. I support that. However, you have to block the leakage also. So you can't be having so much coming in, but all going into private pockets. And the way to do that is for President Tinubu to please wake up, be the Tinubu we used to know you to be, and embark on an anti-corruption crusade. Where are we going as a country without electricity? Somebody has to ask that question. Is it a coincidence that the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, electricity power generation is less than that of a country like France or Portugal or Spain in Europe? What is wrong with us? What is the problem with providing electricity for Nigeria, for God's sake? So if you keep talking about bringing in foreign exchange or foreign investors, it's not going to work until these fundamental elements of production and economic advancement are in place. Electricity generation is not as difficult as going to the sun. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry country is giving it to themselves. I lived and worked in Malaysia. Malaysia has almost double what it requires in terms of electricity generation. We can do it, but corruption wouldn't let us, including those manipulating us from within and from without. So I think I have a lot to talk, but finally, the primary purpose of a country, of a state, is the safety of life and property. Please, my fellow countrymen, I am so ashamed each time I read news about Nigeria. We talk about bandits, gunmen, go and capture 100 plus people and move them through our country, where we have a police force, where we have an army, and those people disappear into where? In this modern age of satellite technology. Please, for God's sake, can we please love our country? I'll stop here because there's just too much to say, otherwise I'll take too much of your time. Again, thank you for bringing me to this platform, and I hope we will advance, pray, and work hard strategically to save our country from further deterioration. Thank you very much for the meantime.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very, very much. That was extremely passionate, and I quite understand where you're coming from. I'm going to take another round of questions very quickly with our panelists, and I'm going to hand over to Sonny and Jumoke to take an open house from the other discussants, and they can direct their question towards any of the panelists as we go ahead. I'm going to go back very quickly to Professor Gwadabe. He had mentioned 2 points as to how to ensure we get a real democratic government, or government to really practice democracy. And he had also mentioned the fact that we needed unity in Nigeria. My question to him is, how do we get this done as citizens? What do we do to ensure we get the government for the people, by the people, and get the government to listen to the yearnings of the people? And also, how do you bring about a united Nigeria? Thank you, Prof. Thank you. Professor Gwadabe, please.
Yes, I'm around. So you see, the point is that we have a president who, in all sense of assessment of him, is a Democrat. I personally, somewhere worked with him under this Nadeko period, and when we fought the military out, and then we established democracy in Nigeria. So I want him to preside well. I want him to have a restructuring of INEC so that we can have credible election. And credible election will produce credible politicians. And credible politicians will now have to see that what brought in them there is to serve the people and not to serve as masters of the people. So this understanding, I think, needs to be everywhere in our politicians, to understand that democracy doesn't mean electing you to go and be an Oga, but electing you to go and serve the people. This culture must be brought back so that we can understand what democracy is all about. And it can succeed if the president himself, I think, play his own role so that if it just as the other professor said, what he did in Lagos, if he can now do it in Nigeria and let other politicians see him that he also believe in that, I'm sure we can have democracy that all segment of the democratic arena can play their own role. And then we can have a system whereby every other person now will have to follow. So my thinking is that if the president can do that, if the president can lead in that, I'm sure we can have a democracy that will represent itself. On the issue of Nigerian unity, I think one of the major problems of Nigeria today is the failure for us to accept Nigeria and to appreciate Nigeria as a country. All of us have one claim or the other of either our region, our tribe, or religion, and it's not paying. If we can have Nigeria be a representation of common identity for all Nigerians. So we work for Nigeria. We have an economy that can work for Nigeria. Just as the other speaker has said, how can we have a situation whereby you have bandits who are now causing serious problems to our own economy and nobody is doing anything about it? Simply because of what? Because of the feeling that now it doesn't belong to my own part of the country. And that is saying that the country is not one up till now. And that is why we're having this major problem all around. And that is why our development is being scattered here and there. But the moment we have this focus, united focus, unity among all of us, I mean the whole country, I think that challenge is going to be out. We'll have Nigeria, we'll have democracy, and we'll have unity, and we'll have development. This is my own kind of thinking.
Thank you very much, Prof. Let me go back to Madu Bright Alwell. Madu, what do you think we as Nigerians can do? Somebody mentioned holding their feet to the fire. How do we also show value, show intent, and get the Nigeria that we really, really desire? Madu? Please unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Oh, please make sure you can unmute. Thank you. Unmute yourself, please.
Okay, I've done that.
Yeah.
Can you?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I believe in Nigeria. I believe in one indivisible, united Nigeria. But the problem of Nigeria is clear. Listen to the professor from A&M, the former professor from A&M. Nigeria cannot and will never work under the current system. The current system is unfair. The current system doesn't elicit or support those that work hard. We are closely divided in Nigeria. I believe for Nigeria to work, that there must be a role of citizens in nation building. And I believe that Nigeria must be restructured, or at least go back to the regional government of 1963. The problem is actually not with the current president. He could have done better. He should have done better. But under this current system that was there before President Goodluck Jonathan, President Obasanjo, President Yar'Adua, Goodluck Jonathan, President Buhari, and now President Tinubu, Nigeria will never work under this current system.
Thank you very much. That is very succinct, and we have noted that. And when I leave here, I'm going straight to President Tinubu and tell him that this is what you said. That's just a joke. Can I quickly go to Professor Francis Achike and see what his thoughts are?
About
what the citizenship can do to ensure that we can actually get the kind of Nigeria we want in 2025. What should you do? What should I do? What should Ms. Ransome Kuti do? What should Jumoke do? You know, one of the challenges of Nigeria that I see is a question of this should be done, this should be done, this should be done. Well, who should do it? And who is going to stake out their necks to make sure certain things are done? You know, anything that you don't call a name belongs to no one. And this is the challenge in Nigeria. We all know the theory of what should be done, but nobody is doing it and nobody is taking responsibility for it. So what responsibility can we take in this, our great country? That's my question.
Thank you. Right. Yes. Citizenship comes with some responsibilities, and that's precisely what your question is all about. However, there is something also called the Maslow's triangle of need in human psychology. When
sorry, Prof, to interrupt you. Right after you finish, I'll just ask Mrs. Ransome Kuti to come up. I'm not going to bother to call her up. And after that, and she should respond to the same question. And after that, I'll be asking Jumoke to take the Q&As. So right after you finish, Auntie Yemisi, just take on the same response.
All right.
Go ahead, sir.
Right, thank you. So I was saying that citizenship connotes some responsibility. And I was also alluding to the fact that there is also something called the Maslow's triangles of need.
Yes.
It's fundamental to the human character and human behavior. When you have impoverished a people to the extent we have in the majority of Nigerian population, there are certain things you cannot expect them to do. They cannot begin to think of excelling. They are thinking of food. They are thinking of shelter. They are thinking if they can survive till tomorrow. They are afraid of moving from here to where they can have resources or even food to eat. So we have pushed our citizens, a good percentage of our citizenry have been pushed into a state of nature. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has to work on that. And those of us who are a bit higher in that triangle, that is, who have food, people like Pastor Ighodalo and co, who have food to eat, who can travel, who can do all sorts of things. We have to, one, have conversations like we are having now. And like Pastor Ighodalo has rightly said, and I also alluded to earlier, we have been having this conversation since independence. What is very lacking is strategic approaches to our conversation, actions, not just descriptions. And quite often, I have, maybe because of my physician background, I tend to distinguish between the cause and the symptoms. We have a tendency to be treating the symptoms. Like we say, oh, let's do this. Let's invite foreign investors. Let's bring in more money, tax reform, without addressing the fact that the money is being looted. The money is, so if you bring all these people, they will be looted. The money they will bring in will be looted. So the one thing I am strongly for, and the group I belong to is discussing, is how do we hold our representatives, our senators, our House of Reps, how do we hold them accountable? How do we hold them accountable? We need to stop the desire in them to loot our resources. That's what we should be focusing on. In fact, the next conversation I would love to have with any group of people is how do we stop these folks from looting our resources? And perhaps to be more pragmatic, when they finally loot it, because you probably never stop it 100%, can we make them invest it in our country? Can we make them invest their loot in our country? So that you don't pull the billions of dollars that they loot, you put them in Swiss accounts, in Cayman Islands, in the US, in Singapore, in Malaysia, while our people are dying. Can they please put the money into our economy and provide jobs for our hungry people? I think that's what we should be focusing on. Thank you, Pastor Ighodalo. Hello?
Auntie Yemi, yes, Auntie Yemisi is coming up.
Talking to myself.
No, sir. Auntie Yemisi is coming up now.
Hello, Jumoke. Good to see you.
Yeah, Auntie.
What can we do? Cannot go and die now. We have to do something, Abi. We're inside the same pepper soup. And everyone, no matter what level you are, will be feeling the pains and effects of reforms. And we've all been told that reforms are hard. Anywhere, any country that tries it will go through this period of pain. I know we were very unhappy that our leaders, quote unquote, don't appear to be going through the same pains as we are. But I think we should kind of ignore that for now. And this elite consensus that we've been talking about, I think we should, Pastor Ighodalo should do more about getting that gathering of elites together to begin to discuss what is the consensus? What do we, 1, 2, 3, want for Nigeria that we will advocate? Because we all want different things. Patriots want regional government, going back to a different constitutional arrangement. Other people want to even leave the country completely. So let's gather the elites and begin that conversation about, since we're inside the same pepper soup, and it's not likely that we want a war or a coup to change the status quo, what can we do to make sure power is supplied, make sure infrastructure is done, make sure, let's list the things we want to advocate for. I have a lot of sympathy for our current president, who may have done quite well in Lagos, a smaller geographical area. I can imagine his headache trying to manage a country like Nigeria, because we have different countries trying to live together, trying to come together. So it's going to take a lot of deft maneuvering and maybe dropping some balls, making some consensus, making some considerations that may not look like he's working like the well-briefed, organized politicians that he could be. So let's leave him to wrestle with those challenges that he must be facing. But for us, the people, let's try and get that elite consensus, and then look at security, because without security, business cannot really thrive. Let's look at how we can individually engage the DPOs that have been assigned to our local areas. Let's get their numbers and begin to organize to have an engagement with them and find out what are their problems. In England and other places, they organize friends of the police or little organizations that raise funds for policing in their area. Let's look at how we can get the local government officials to tell us what are their problems. Why is it that they cannot fix XYZ? If it's security, what can we as the citizens of that local government do to support the activities of that local government? we're talking of national unity. I think Nigeria's unity cannot be gained by fiat, just saying, we're a nation, right? It'll come in bits. It will come as we grow, because I think it is in our interest to have one Nigeria. And Nigerians themselves should say, okay, how do I live in a place where I will understand my neighbor? How do I begin to understand the cultures and the thinking of these other groups that are in my family? And, we can, instead of traveling for holidays to other places outside the country, let's go to other places. Let's organize. If diasporans can come and do a dirty December in Lagos, we can also go and do a dirty from within Nigeria, in Kano, in Kaduna, in Port Harcourt, in other parts of Nigeria. In Enugu is looking good, given the activities of the governor there, Mba. So we can all do that. The NYC has done a long way to, I think, get the younger elements within Nigeria to, really begin to network and marry each other and begin to think of them as Nigerians. I think the older ones can do a little bit more in that engagement with ourselves. And then, in the long run, it's by solving the economic issues. When people are a little bit more relaxed about themselves, about their future, they will become more Nigerian. They will begin to believe more in Nigeria, and it will reinforce our national unities. It is critical, absolutely critical, that we advocate that policies to create jobs, good manufacturing jobs. We need to invite those businesses that can do large-scale manufacturing to come and build their factories here and employ our young people and transfer technology and make it a painless endeavor for them, where they do not come and they have to deal with the insecurity, the regulations and taxation, double this and double that. So we need to do that. We need to do a lot. All our organizations, wherever we are, should do more in upskilling our young people. They need to get skills that's fit for purpose. It is not enough to make them responsible. We must make them response-able so that they can respond to opportunities when it comes. They have the skills to take on the jobs that will be created. They have the skills to create jobs themselves. So all of us must do a little bit more in not just teaching them about leadership, but skills, the bread and butter skills of how to be a plumber, how to be an electrician, how to do graphics and all these other things. We must create those opportunities, particularly within the religious institutions. I know the Catholics, they have all kinds of schools and charity organizations to train people. We need skilled manpower. If we want to get out of where we are, we need the skilled manpower to be competitive. And they must be able to access financial support. They cannot go to the banks and be lending at 30-something. This NEL fund that has been created is a good model that can be replicated in terms of entrepreneurial funding as well, where they can get the funding at very low interest rates and pay back over time when they're on their feet. And as Nigerians, we need to get our optimism back in our country, to begin to focus and reinforce our good stories. There are lots of good stories, lots of people doing good things. When you turn on your TV, you only hear the bad stories. Somebody has been kidnapped, somebody has been this. How many people? If you compare that, in fact, we had the statistics at the meeting I was telling you about today. There are more people killed in the United States than they are killed here. So let us begin to look for those good stories that will give hope, that will give inspiration to our young people, that they live in a country where there are giants. There are people who are talented. There are people who are doing great things and you know, actually beating so many other people in other parts of the world. Let's focus on patronizing made in Nigeria goods. I'll say that 100 times if you allow me to. Let's do that. Let us patronize those goods. All of us be intentional about what we buy and who we employ. Pastor gave us a very good story about the furniture in his organizations. That's what we've got to do, each one and every one of us. Let's picture, it's easier to go buy the finished good, looks better, it's fancier, but it tanks your economy. So let's do that. Let us patronize those goods that are made here, those carpenters, those furniture makers, those dressmakers, all of those talents, those artisans that are, you know, creating their own little shoes and bags and whatever. Let us intentionally, I know we have a wardrobe that is full. Me, I have clothes that will last me 100 years that I've had bought before. I am packing them in one side. I'll pick one once in a while, but I will, from a few years back, made that commitment that I will patronize, I will buy every year goods that are made by Nigerian entrepreneurs. And then the local government, corruption. We can't say enough of it. There's so much corruption. It's not just politicians. It's in the civil service. It's in official workplaces all over. You know, we've come to a point where we think that, well, what happens when you get caught? Nothing. You know, if you steal a billion, they will ask you to return 100 million and keep the rest. So why shouldn't I be corrupt? So that's the wrong message. But to fight it, I think all of us have to decide that, look, within my family is where I'm going to start. Amongst my friends is where I'm going to start. I'm not going to make demands on family members, on friends, because they're in government offices, you know, because they're going to say, even pastors have been to funerals and functions where the bishop will get up and say he's building a church, everybody must donate, the governor must donate. From which budget? He's donating my money. Everybody should be fighting against that. Churches should begin to set up institutions, whatever it is, that would generate funds for them. So that they can be able to take more care of their congregants and also invest in the community. Finally, the local government autonomy we're talking about is very, very important, because we have no foundation for the things we want to do. And if that local government foundation is not properly strengthened, we cannot build on those dreams and those wishes that we want for Nigeria. So we have to organize to track and monitor local government budgets. Budget has a website where you can find out where your local government is and begin to get some information about that. ALG is pioneering, in partnership with Lagos Island Connect, a program in Lagos Island, and Jumoke can tell you more about that. So finally, I want us all to begin to tell our citizens that you have to be more energized. You have to find that extra strength to be more vocal, to demand accountability, to demand good governance, not ask for favors from our political leaders, not go when you see them, it's because your person has died or your school fees or personal needs. Let us say, no. If he wants to give you money, say, please give me good road. Give me an environment where my business will thrive. Give me an environment where my children will have hope. Give me an environment where my children will be proud to be Nigerians. So that's my final note. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Auntie. At least you've set the stage for the recommendations of what we need to do. We've identified all the challenges, and I always say even the unborn children know the challenges of Nigeria. But now we are in that phase of what do we do, taking action to begin to make the changes. So thank you for setting the stage for us to conclude our conversation around that. I'm going to ask Madu Alwell to please speak. This is from following up on a question from the chat. You said Nigeria, regardless of who comes in, won't work. So can you expatiate on why it won't work, and maybe not why it won't work, what it would take to make it work? Because we are in this phase of problem solving. What is it going to take to make Nigeria work? We know those challenges. So please speak on that. Thank you, sir. We've asked you to please unmute, and your camera is dark. I don't know if there's, we can't see your face. But please go ahead and unmute.
I believe, and as many Nigerians do as well, the country cannot move forward based on how we are structured. Nigeria has great potential. Listening to Sister Kuti and Pastor Godala, including the professor and the professor from A&M College of Medicine. We have continued for the past 60 years running in circles, speaking about solutions, how we can solve the problem of Nigeria. Many of us, specifically I believe in one Nigeria, but under this current system, we cannot move forward, irrespective of who comes in. This president is there now. I will second Sister Kuti's submission that I think the president has, this current president has done fairly well, but he could do better if he can run an all-inclusive government. But we must go back to 1963. We must go to where we believe that each region can contribute a certain amount to the center and keep a certain portion to running regional governments. I believe also that we must include the citizens. Do not know their rights. Citizens do not speak up. Even if we need to educate them on how to vote, how to protect their votes, on volunteerism, and how to be good citizens, even paying taxes, protecting your neighborhood. All these things are things that I saw that happened where I grew up in the United States. I've lived here for over 4 decades, and the things that are done in countries like, I will speak specifically about United States, it could be done here. But I believe the problem is with the citizens. Each citizen, most of the citizens in Nigeria, even those that have not gotten into office, the intention is get into office, take care of my family, take care of my tribe, take care of my people, but we lack that common good practiced by the Zik, the Awolowos, those people in that era. We should strive to make Nigeria work, but still, I believe under this format, there is so much disunity in the country. Some people feels left out, left behind. There is not an all-inclusive government. We must make sure that each country, each of the tribes, each zone is represented, and there is people having a feeling of sense of belonging where they are valued and respected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to have a follow-up question with that, and then please, if you have any questions from the audience, please raise your hand and then I'll call you. So following up on that, you talked about government promoting inclusivity, talked about Nigerians being educated, and you talked about some groups feeling disenfranchised. So as Nigerians, that we are now talking as Nigerians, and we're talking about our engagement in making those changes. What do we collectively do to start to bridge some of this gap, to start to, even the misinformation that politicians use to divide us? What is our role in disabusing those information and then promoting the accurate ones amongst ourselves? We are all here from diverse groups, different ethnic groups, different religion, but we've agreed to come together to dialogue. So how do we model this as a nation, where we can look at that common purpose as Nigerians and agree to sit at the table to work together for our good? if you can speak to that. And I know you chair federalist majority.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So if you can
ahead.
speak on that a little bit, and then we'll move on to questions. Please raise your hand if you have any questions, and we'll ask you to unmute. Thank you.
There are three pillars for Nigerian agenda in 2025. First, as I've mentioned earlier, unity through inclusivity. Two, addressing historical grievances, which I've addressed as well. Three, we must promote dialogue and mutual understanding, and this includes inclusivity, bringing everyone together. And there should be actionable steps to establish regional integration. And second, good governance and accountability is important to sustain in any nation in the world. We have to look at digital transparency. We have to look at institutional strengthening of most of our parasitos in Nigeria. And some actionable steps include implementing transparency in our government. And it's important that we empower our youth. And it's important also that we give people the opportunity, economic opportunities to feel a sense of belonging in Nigeria. And we must promote entrepreneurial youth empowerment and just diversity of the economy. But the main purpose of the citizens in all we do here is leadership. There must be civic education. We must promote volunteerism and so forth. Nigeria, again, I continue to believe that Nigeria, we should have an opportunity. We're a child from Sokoto. We have equal opportunities as a child from Port Harcourt. We should believe this should be a country. Mrs. Kuti have mentioned about businesses thriving in Nigeria. We have to create the opportunity for businesses to thrive. She mentioned about the power, the light issue. You can't run a business in Nigeria where you do not have the power. Most of the times, these business owners transfer the cost of how much ever they spend to buy gas for their generators to the citizens. So a lot has to be done for Nigeria to move forward. But Nigeria, under this current system, cannot and will never move forward. We must give each region a sense of belonging. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think you have put out actionable items out there. So we're moving from talking to implementing. And so we'll be calling on everyone. How do we work together for this inclusivity to build this national identity? We've talked about it for so long. So it's time for us to move from talking to doing. So everyone has ideas, and we'll be reaching out. We as an organization, ALG, will be reaching out to every organization to say, how do we build this national identity? And then we'll start. I think it was a few months ago, someone had come on this platform, and anyone can remind me of who said that it's brick by brick. We're going to start rebuilding Nigeria brick by brick. So this is a call to action for everyone. This is the time for us to put our hands to the bricks and start to build. So thank you so much, sir. We definitely will be following up. And I just have to put in another plug for ALG, what we do. We do have a citizens responsibility course that we put out every year. We did one last year. Albert is the head of SOLAG, which is our School of Leadership and Governance. We also have a youth group that we are working with, empowerment and giving them those skill sets that Auntie Yemisi talked about. She also presides over Lagos Island Connect. So there's a lot that is going on that we can continue to collaborate on to expand our efforts and our reach. So please fill the forms I put out there. I'm going to take the hands that I have up, and because of time, I'm just please going to ask you guys to keep it to like 1 minute so we can have the participants, our discussants, respond to your question. Go ahead, Professor Grange. Go ahead, Ma. Please, I've asked you to unmute.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Moke. And thank you very much, our thought leaders. A lot has been said. To reiterate what we have all been saying for a long time. And as usual, I think we are moving forward. What we are saying is that we must continue to dialogue and we must continue to put the government's feet to the fire. Now, my own contribution comes from the fact that we need to look at the structure that we have. People have said that we have to restructure. Personally, I'm not sure that we have to restructure without, first of all, looking at what we are doing with the structure that we have. We do have a structure that goes from the policy level to strategic level. And most times when we are talking about our government, we are talking more about the policy level, what the policies they are putting out, etc. But we are not actually monitoring what is happening at the strategic level. By strategic level, I mean the states and the local government. Yes, the local government had not been playing a big role for now until they are going to be given their power to play their role. But at the state level, there is so much more that could be done that's not being done. And it's something that makes them now get into their shell. We don't hear much about them. We don't, there is no structure for getting them to talk to us. Maybe if you are in Lagos State, yeah, you talk to Lagos State. If you are in Enugu, you talk to Enugu State. But there should be cross-fertilization of ideas. There should be speaking to everybody from each state so that we can know what is happening. Somebody mentioned Enugu State. Yes, Enugu State is supposed to be doing well. So is Abia State. But when I talked to Comrade Madu that Abia was doing well, I said, don't talk about that because we don't, it's not correct. So information, we are not getting the correct information. So we need to say that, first of all, let us look at what structure we have. I remember that, with medicine, with healthcare, 80% of the responsibility for healthcare is with the states. But all the time, people kept saying that, oh, it's the Ministry of Health that is not performing. But each state has up to about maybe 30 hospitals, which they are not equipping, which they are not, and they are not saying anything why they are not doing it. So let me tell you that there are, we do have a structure which we ourselves still need to get very much attuned to. We need to become familiarized with that structure and what is happening there. Having said that, we have said that we need security, electricity, data, and these things can be provided by the states. They can, Well, the only thing is that we need to look at the policy, which is not allowing them to do it.
Okay.
Policies at the higher level need to allow the states to function properly.
Thank you very much.
Just the last bit, Jumoke. I know you are trying to get me to get off.
No, I'm trying to get you to round off, not get off.
The last thing I want to say is that we have a responsibility to educate the citizens. The citizens are responding to what they think the expectations should be. They expect the senators, they expect anybody to come and build schools for them, build hospitals for them, build everything, including the senators. And so the senators are now saying, okay, yes, so we need to get money to go and do that. That is not their job, So there has to be a lot more education about whose responsibilities certain things are. Finally, the job you gave me about mentoring, I am learning quite a lot from the younger folks who I'm trying to mentor. One of them told me that, you know, she actually is a student of not college, School of Health Technology. And there in that school, nobody pays for them to go to the community. Nobody pays for them to learn and all that. They collect their own money among themselves and use it to teach themselves, to provide the facilities for the training. So there are initiatives being taken at the local level, but unfortunately, we at the middle level are not getting in touch with them. Thank you, Jumoke, for allowing me to get in touch with some of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the work you're doing at the Itwa Olajide Ighodalo Mentorship Program, for serving faithfully and impacting the next generation. We're grateful to you. Pastor Funke, we have 3 hands up. So I'm just going to please ask you guys to please keep it succinct so that we can start to bring the program to a close. We still have the speakers that will give their closing remark. So please go ahead, Pastor Funke, with your question or your comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, and Happy New Year. First of all, I was reading through some documentary, and the question was asked that who signed the agreement, or what we call amalgamation, of 1914. And when they traced it, they found out that they could not pin it because they said, my granddad was born 1909. It happened in 1914. So it couldn't be Awolowo. Awolowo was 5. Zik was 10. So the main people, they mentioned so many names. They were actually very, very young. And then they said, if they cannot even find out who signed it, and we're saying, there's so much anomaly and discrepancy in what was signed, then we need, and history cannot even confirm what happened, then there's something, really, really wrong with the foundation. Let's leave that. Secondly, today, I was just inspired to watch Charles Wesley, and I thought I was going on a spree of religion, and only for me to find out that when England was going through a lot and there was so much moral bankruptcy, bribery and corruption, ineffective government, discrimination amongst Blacks, guess who led a movement to stop all this? And who allowed those foundations? Everything that you see that is policy making is traceable to Charles Wesley. And what he did do, because somebody asked the question, what do we do? The onus falls on every citizen, every persona under the sound of my voice. What are you doing? Because you see, the reliance on the governance, really is overwhelming. And what we see is that every problem, APC started something, said the new government must start with you. You find out the citizenry is extremely warped. If you interact, I just moved somewhere, everyone wants to get the better of you and cheat you. How do we begin in our own sphere of influence to change the narrative, what we are seeing? So it's not just the government, it's every one of us that must sit up and begin to rebuild, brick by brick, whatever it is. It's systemic. The rot has to do with the populace. And to change the system, I'm telling you of a pastor. I read, I wanted to read about the Methodist Church, but I saw that it was very, very instrumental to what we have in Britain. And what happened, he helped to stop this discrimination from the Blacks and all that. What am I saying? Every one of us must have a plan. Our input is needful for Nigeria to change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brick by brick, we all have something to contribute to the development of the country. Please go ahead, Comrade Sanusi, and then also I have Mr. Frank. Please go ahead, ask your comment or your question, and then we'll have our speakers come up.
Thank you, Jumeke. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, Happy New Year. And I want to thank all the participants and the presenters for the beautiful presentations and commentaries. I have 2 points. The last speaker talked about the amalgamation of Nigeria. And I have a document that was produced by the colonial government, which I can share with the group. It was purely a British enterprise. British have conquered Nigeria in stages. They have what they call the Southern Protectorate and the Northern Protectorate. There were 2 entities. For economic reasons, they decided to merge them together. Nigerians were not involved in negotiation. Nobody signed anything, and the document speaks to that. So my own point of view is that I was born a Nigerian. Nigeria, like any other country, has its own challenges. But my own duty is that what can I do to make my country better? No country in the world is perfect. We look at China as developing, becoming the global industrial power of the world, second largest economy, the biggest population. We look at US with the 3rd largest population, the biggest economy. We look at UK, former colonial power. All of them have their own challenges. All of them have their own challenges. They have inequality, they have marginalization, they have homeless people, they have poor people, they have their own downside of their own society, because governance, development is a work in progress. It has a beginning, it doesn't have an end. So what I'm suggesting is that I don't agree with the position of Madu that this current arrangement cannot work. Yes, it cannot work with the mindset of those who operate the system. How can you be a governor? You are giving a state with 10 million people, and every month you are giving 15 to 20 billion naira, and you generate your own, and you cannot build schools, you cannot build roads. All you can do is to say that the federal arrangement is not working for you. What are you doing with the money? What are you doing with the money, for God's sake? We are deceiving ourselves. This idea of restructuring, I used to look at it spiritually, that yes, after restructuring, Nigeria will look like heaven. But before we go to heaven, we need to die. So for us to, that means we have to fix the current system before we go back to 1963. And anybody who thinking of 1963, how many Nigerians were there by then? I was born 1964. I don't know anything about 1963. If I want, I can read about it. What I know is the current structure. We have National Assembly, we have legislative arm of government, we have the political parties, we have the executive arm of government. Anybody who has an idea how to run a Nigerian government should come through the ambit of democracy. Let him form a political party, put it as a manifesto, campaign to Nigerians, let the Nigerians come and vote for that particular vision. That's why manifestos and constitutions, they are marketing tools for political parties. So ladies and gentlemen, I know this is a very long debate about restructuring, about sustainable development, about whatever the future of Nigeria. To me, there are 3 key fundamentals. One is good governance. It has 8 elements. Any system can operate good governance. And I don't know if I'm wrong, that the military have done better in terms of building the capability of Nigeria than the so-called democracy that we have, where money is used to prostrate elections, to impose unpopular candidates, and is being rubber-stamped by the judiciary. So what we need is good governance. Whoever is governing, if he can give good governance, nobody will complain. Number 2, we need social justice. There are elements of social justice. They are very clear. local government, state government, federal government, let them subscribe to the elements of social justice. Nobody will complain in Nigeria. Number three, the United Nations have helped the countries of the world to formulate the 17 goals of the Sustainable Development Goals, a development paradigm that consider the present and future generation of Nigeria. Countries that don't have capacity to plan and execute plans for themselves and for their people, they are being guided by the United Nations. If you look at all the elements of the Sustainable Development Goals, and Nigeria, let's say we are going to operationalize them, all these issues that we used to raise, that only restructuring is a solution. You can't have one answer to the Nigerian problem with over 230 million people. The restructuring issue is coming from a particular place, particular mindset. If they so believe in it, let them market it to everybody. Let us put it to a democratic process and let people decide whether they want to go back to 1963 or they want to live in 2025. Thank you. Sorry for taking too much.
Thank you very much, sir. And I think you've really outlined it. We can't keep, I mean, I'm one that we need to look forward. We cannot stay victims. Whatever, and from as people of faith, we have to declare whatever the enemy meant for good, I mean, for evil, God turns it around for good. So it is our responsibility to pick up the pieces. Nigeria is great. I don't know that there's any nation in the world that is as blessed as Nigeria. Nigerians now need to look at the opportunities in Nigeria and work at it. From what you have said and from what people are saying here, our mindset. How do we form that national identity for us to work together cohesively? How do we work together to promote the nation of Nigeria to be good custodians of the resources that that God has blessed our country with, and by extension blessed us with? How do we hold ourselves accountable? How do we hold our leaders accountable? How do we build Nigeria together? The British are long gone. Those that did whatever 1914, they are long gone. Even those in 1960 are long gone. It is now us. It is the onus is on us to start to rebuild. So thank you for that. And Mr. Frank, that is going to be the last hand that I take. And then I'm going to go back to our discussants to please with their closing remark, and we start to bring this to a close with some announcement. Go ahead, sir. Mr. Frank, we've asked you to unmute. Mr. Frank, we've asked you to unmute. Okay, maybe he's no longer there. If Mr. Frank is there, go ahead and unmute and ask your question. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it back to our discussant. And I don't know if I'm going to call you in any particular order, but just based on how I see your name, Mr. Bright Alwell, we started with you, so it makes sense for us to end this conversation with you. Go ahead, sir.
I must thank you, Mrs. Taylor. I must thank Pastor Ighodalo. I must thank my fellow colleagues and discussants. I must thank the members. I thank your group for bringing us together. In closing, I will urge all of us to rise above our party, division, and despair. Let us embrace the spirit of patriotism and the power of collaboration. Together, we, Nigerians, can regenerate the soul of our nation, restore its dignity, and build a Nigeria that stands as a beacon of hope and progress for Africa and the world. Thank you, and may God bless Nigeria. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Achike Maegmo. Please go ahead, sir, with your closing remarks.
My closing remarks derives from my vision for the race, that is the Black race, of which Africa is the center and Nigeria the most populous nation. I have heard us talk a lot in these contributions about we the people, having to rise and take responsibility. Right. That is an essential ingredient for moving the country forward, the people. But the people must also be empowered. But more importantly is leadership. Very much more importantly is leadership. None of these two stands in exclusion of the other. Without the leadership, the efforts of the people may not amount to much, because leadership is what cements the little each small group of the people will do. And that's what is manifest in Nigeria today. We have a lot of people who are trying, who are doing things. This platform is one. There are hundreds others of platforms. But what is happening to security in the country? What is happening to hunger? It's all there. What is happening to electricity? It's all there. A few of us, supposedly representative of the people, are the ones holding us hostage. So, yes, we the people have to rise. We have to do what we are doing here, come up with suggestions, but we must hold leadership accountable and responsible for the primary purpose for which they are elected. And that is to cement, to be the bond that brings together the little efforts of the people. We must hold them responsible. And when it comes to the subject of restructuring, we need to revisit our present constitution. Anybody who is talking about restructuring knows that our current constitution, though supposedly federal, does not have a federal structure or function in place. We need to visit that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And can I have Professor Gwadabe, and then I'll give my auntie the last word. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Jimoke. I want to begin by going in support of what Comrade Sinusi has said. Comrade Madu, I think there's going to be a problem going back to 1963 because most of us were not born then. I was only 1 year old then learning to speak. So I don't think that one will help. And I want us to begin to own Nigeria and identify as Nigerians and let us move forward. This is one of the big challenges before us, thinking of going back. We can't go back, we can't go back to 1963. And again, 1914 was real, but it was only amalgamation of administration of Nigerian area, not establishing Nigeria, not finding Nigeria. Nigerian environment, Nigerian people existed beyond 1914. So please, let us not take 1914 as a period when Nigeria began. No, it's not like that. And finally, I want to say that I really appreciate this meeting and the ideas discussed. I want to, Jimoke, to take note of my organization, Center for Democratic Development Research and Training. We're doing a lot here in Northern Nigeria, trying to sensitize people about democracy and about the necessity to have democratic structures in place if we really want to move forward. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to be invited next time. Thank you.
Thank you. We would invite you to participate in our Citizens Responsibility course as a professor at ABU. So we definitely will be calling upon you to contribute your own efforts to moving the country forward. Thank you so much, sir. And the last word goes to my auntie, and then we'll take some announcements and then begin to close. Thank you. Auntie Yemisi, please.
Thank you. I'm just trying to write. Well, last words. Always last words. We have so many last words. But one day we will have final words because we would have arrived at the destination. Well, I think holding government accountable is important, but accountable to what? We must find out what they say they are going to do. So we're not holding them accountable in a vacuum. In part of the presentation that was made today, they have said they will promote productivity. They will create jobs, savings, production, and investment. They have said they will take care of the infrastructure, which is the power, the roads, blah, blah, blah. They have said they will raise revenue for that infrastructure. They have said they will shrink mismanagement. They have started this National Orientation Agency, speaking to the National Unity Project. Let us focus on what they have said, particularly in those areas that are really critical to economic development, and hold them accountable to that. We should, as so many of us have said, engage more effectively at state and local government. When you see that governor at church, please ask him about the road or this or the challenges in your area. Don't just say, hello, Excellency, how are you? Smile. How's your wife and your children and all of that? No. Let us prepare our speeches in time for when we meet any of our officials. That is for those who are able to meet them face to face. Then the rest of us who cannot must get their contact details. Some of it is online because that is there. We've employed them. The phone they're using is supposed to have been paid for by us. Get their numbers, whether it's the governor, the House of Representatives. And when people talk about inclusivity, I just begin to wonder. All states, all peoples of Nigeria are represented at the National Assembly. We have an inclusive as you can in a democracy, because at the federal government level, we cannot compel President Tinubu to appoint people he cannot work with just because they come from a particular region. So we have to understand the reality of our politics. Understand that we already practice an inclusive democracy. We have representatives at all the levels. Let us hold those representatives accountable. Send them text messages. Make phone calls. I spend a lot of my money doing that. I'd rather do that than go to a party. For me, that is more important. Sign letters. Get groups of people. If it's just one person, they may say, oh, this person who's there. I mean, my road has just been fixed because I would not let Governor Hamzat rest for the last 6 months. I've been texting him. Every time I see him, I would tell him. I've taken photographs of the place, sent it to him. I've spoken to his officers in the Ministry of Environment, Drainage, and all of that. So it's our advocacy, our energy that will compel these officers, our servants, to do what? So take photos, videos, of the challenges you want them to fix, and send it to them. If they're not answering, let it go viral. Let it be on YouTube. By the time they see it all over the place, I assure you they will fix it. And finally, there's a quote from Mr. Abiodun Adedipe, one of our eminent economists, which I really love. He says, a mind trained to see opportunities will not surrender to or complain about problems. So let's stop complaining. Start fixing at whatever level you have the capacity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. And that's a good note for us to bring this to a close. May God deliver us as a people from sycophancy. May God help us to always stand our ground and speak truth to power, regardless of who it is. Respectfully, of course, but for us to also know that we are all leaders within our sphere of influence, and to be also to differentiate between rulership and leadership. We can't keep attributing leadership to those that rule over us without the character traits, without the responsibility to serve. So that is my own personal appeal. We want to thank everyone again on behalf of our principal, Mr. President, who had to leave for another program. And all of us here at ALG, we want to thank you for your continued participation. We are off to a great 2025. We started this dialogue with what are we going to do as a nation, as a people together. So we welcome you. A lot of ideas have come up here, and please don't wait for someone to kind of like pick you before you spearhead that. Auntie talked about a coalition that we are working on with different organizations to begin to implement some of these ideas that we've been talking about: accountability and transparency. As someone would say, there's a popular quote that says, if you want to go far, go together. Or if you want to go far, what is that quote? If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So we invite you as a community, as people, for us to put our hands together and begin to build this Nigeria that we all have a responsibility to. Here at ALG, we have different programs, we have different pillars. We have the Community Development Initiative, and we've been using FanFan as a tool to reach the communities to also provide this civic and education and engagement. We have the School of Leadership and Governance. We have, and under that is the Citizens Responsibility course, Project Management course, Financial Literacy, and last but not least is the Ito Olajide Ighodalo mentorship program that Auntie Yemisi and Auntie Professor Grange and the likes of those tried and true leaders that have served this nation are pouring themselves into the next generation. And Dr. Achike, thank you. And we are going to charge you. The diaspora has a lot of work to do in terms of holding our rulers accountable. There's advocacy. We can shut the borders from them taking our resources out of the country. So this is an appeal. As a leader of the diaspora community, we need to do better. We need to advocate more for policies that support Nigeria, not bleed Nigeria. So this is our appeal here at the Africa Leadership Group, that this is a work that we're all going to do together. And we invite you. We don't have to take the stage. We're looking for collaboration, and we continue to do this. This is our 5th year, and we will continue. So thank you all for your participation here. We are glad you could join us this evening. There's a link in the chat for you to fill so that we'll have your contact information. We meet here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Different topic, different speakers. So we look forward to having you here next week. Thank you all for joining us. God bless you. God bless Nigeria, and may God enable and empower us to build that great nation that works for all of us.
Thank you so much, Jumoke.
God bless you.
So
thank you, Auntie. I love your hair. I'm loving your hair.
Thank you so much for all that you do. And looking so radiantly and as if you are doing it without lifting a finger. God bless you. Thank you so much.
You too, Auntie. Thank you for being one of my greatest cheerleaders. Thank you.
I want to thank my other discussants too. It was really a very invigorating and inspiring session. And all our participants, we're really grateful that you continue to believe in Nigeria, believe in what we're doing here, and taking every opportunity to see how we can change various aspects of our governance and our development. Thank you so much. Thank you for always looking so beautiful. It always makes me feel, I mean, we have the best in Nigeria now. Come and see my
Hey. We have the best all over. Nigerians are doing, every time you turn around, Nigerians are doing exploits around the world. So we are a blessed people. We are a blessed nation, and we will begin to walk in that identity of being blessed and highly favored. Thank you. Please unmute everyone. This is time for us to, usually Mr. President will greet everyone by name, but please just greet everyone. Thank you all for joining. Unmute and share your wishes, your thoughts, and the session has come to an end. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okay, God bless you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Very exciting discussions.
Thank you all.
Great
Oh,
time.
Mrs. Thomas,
amen.
thank
Just
you.
stop.
Thank you.
So help us God in Jesus'
Thank you.
name.
Amen.
God bless you.
Amen. Amen. God bless
Thank
you
you
all.
very much.
Yes.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you
See you
next
next
week. Same
time.
Zoom link. Same Zoom
By
link.
God's grace.
By God's grace, God will preserve us. And please
Amen.
share with your network. Let them know there's this platform. We want to take this to every corner in Nigeria or even around the world. So
Great.
thank you all. Thank you to our great
See you,
discussers.
everybody.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
Good evening,
contribution and
everybody.
your work.
Nice
We
learning
really
from you all.
appreciate you. Madu, Alwell, thank you, sir. I know,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Achike, thank you. Professor
Thank you, all
Gwadabe, thank you
colleagues.
so much. And we will be looking forward to working closely with your organizations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
good
much,
evening.
everyone.
God bless
Have a
you.
good evening.
God bless
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless.
Okay, thank you very much.
God bless you,
all.
Mom.
See
No, you
you
know,
next
I can never try to shut you up.
I have a
Okay.
terrible cold. That's why I
Thank
wasn't
you
sure.
all. Oh, may God
Thanks for
give
the
you healing.
moderation.
I
That
know
was
it's going
brilliant. Well
around.
done.
No,
Keep it up.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Auntie Jimmy,
Bye-bye.
talk to
Bye-bye.
you later. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Have a
Bye-bye.
nice day.
Well done. That was
All
good.
right, sir. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you, ma. I'll call you later.